Hi viewers, this is J. Swami, Assistant Professor of Zoology. Today we are going to discuss the structure and function of antibody. The main function of the immune system is the production of soluble proteins that circulate freely and exhibit properties that contribute specifically to immunity and protection against foreign material. This is the major function of the immune system. And apart from the immune system, we will discuss the antibodies. What are the antibodies? Antibodies are the soluble proteins which are basically produced by activated B lymphocytes. B lymphocytes, when they get activated due to the exposure of specific antigens, that get differentiated into plasma cells. These plasma cells secrete antibodies. These antibodies show specificity against antigens. Basically, all the antibodies are globular proteins and that provide the immunity against various foreign invaders, so that they are called as the immunoglobulins, and that will be shown as Ig. Ig means immunoglobulins. This is the mature B cell get modified and differentiated into plasma cells and the memory B cells. Plasma cells and the memory B cells. These plasma cells that produces the antibody. Plasma cells are responsible for the production of the antibodies. In general, what happens? A recognition of an immunogen by the surface antibodies of the B cell triggers the proliferation and differentiation of the B cell into the memory B cell and as well as the plasma cell. These plasma cells secrete soluble antibody molecules with specificity against an antigen that is identical to the surface receptors of the parent B cell. So this is the surface receptor of the parent B cell, and this is responsible for the identification of the foreign invader or antigen, and the same kind of antibodies are produced against the antigen. So this is the plasma cell, is nothing but the matured B cell. Von Behring and Kitasato performed the first experiment that proved the physical existence of antibodies in the year 1890. So later on, many advances has been done by various scientists. Afterwards, Tiselius and the Cabot, they accomplished the first attempt to identify antibody molecule in 1939, and followed by in 1959 Rodney R. Porter, he proposed the basic structure of immunoglobulin. Then antibodies first discovered by Behring and Kitasato, as we discussed just now, in 1890. Antitoxin, that is the exotoxin of the diphtheria, capable of neutralizing the effects of toxin, or globulin, immunoglobulin. The immune serum, which is present in the body, that is known as the anti-serum. So these were the two scientists, Kitasato and the Emil Behring. They found the antibodies against the diphtheria and TT, tetanus toxin. Antitoxins they discovered. In late 19th century, the scientists known that antibodies reside in the blood serum. And afterwards, in mid 20th century, antibodies were shown to be present in other body fluids like milk, tears, saliva, and etc. There was a experimental demonstration that the most antibodies are in the gamma globular fraction of the serum proteins. In the 19th century, the scientists they came to know that antibodies reside in the blood serum. But in the 20th century, they also found that not only the blood serum, they were also present in other body fluids like the milk, tears, saliva, bile, and other juices. Then there was a experimental demonstration that reveals that the most antibodies are in the gamma globular fraction of the serum proteins. So this is shown by Tiselius and as well as Elvin Cabot. Arne Tiselius and Elvin A. Cabot in 1939. The first evidence that antibodies were contained in particular serum protein fractions came from a classic experiment done by Arne Tiselius and Elvin A. Cabot in 1939. What they did is, they immunized the rabbits with the protein which is known as the ovalbumin. What is ovalbumin? This is albumin of egg white. And prepared the serum and divided it into two aliquots. They immunized the rabbit with the egg protein, that is the ovalbumin. They prepared the serum from the rabbit and divided the sample into two aliquots. Then electrophoretic separation of one serum aliquot revealed that there are four major fractions, namely serum albumin, alpha globulin, beta globulin, and the gamma globulin. That is, one set of serum albumin and three sets of globulin, alpha, beta, and gamma globulins. They are found in the normal single aliquot, which is a control. And with the another aliquot, what they did, prior to the electrophoresis, the other serum aliquot was mixed with the immunizing antigen, that is the ovalbumin, allowing formation of immune precipitate. Immune precipitate means complex of antigen antibody, and that was removed. Immune precipitate was removed, leaving the serum proteins which did not react with the antigen. So this is the one aliquot with the normal ingredients. So it is kept aside and taken another aliquot. They mixed this aliquot with the antigen. And whenever the antigen is mixed with the components, there will be a immune precipitation which is formed of the antigen and antibody. So the immune complexes has been removed from the aliquot, and they went for the electrophoretic profiles and compare these two electrophoretic profiles of the control and as well as the experimental. Then they came to know a comparison of electrophoretic profiles of two aliquots revealed that there was a significant drop in the gamma globulin peak in the aliquot that had been reacted with the antigen, otherwise the ovalbumin. Now here we will see the blue color line. This shows the blue color line. This shows the control, and whereas the black color line that shows the experimental. So here, prior to the electrophoresis, if you take the control one, the blue line, so albumin, alpha globulin, beta globulin, and the gamma globulin. Now here, the black line shows this is the experimental one, when the aliquot mixed with the antigen and the immune precipitate has been removed from the sample. Thereby, albumin is almost or similar, alpha globulin is also similar, beta globulin also similar. So here there is a drastic change in the height of the peak of the gamma. So here there is a high peak in the control. So there is a huge drop in the experimental model. So that indicates that those fractions, otherwise those molecules which have been interacted with the antigen ovalbumin, they are nothing but the gamma globulins rather than the alpha beta globulins and the albumin, serum albumins. That indicates that the gamma globular fraction contain many number of antibodies. So this is the experimental evidence shown by the Arne Tiselius and the Elvin A. Cabot in the year 1939, and followed by the chemical and enzymatic methods that revealed the basic structure of antibody. In general, the immunoglobulin G, IgG, is nothing but the IgG, the most abundant class of antibody. Indeed, mostly found in the gamma globulin fraction. Significant amounts of it and other important class of antibody molecules are found in the alpha beta fractions of the serum also. But most of them they found in the gamma globulin fraction. And before going to the structure of the antibody, we will see the characters of the antibody. So that is, the antibody shows two things. One is the specificity, another one is the biological activity. Specificity and the biological activity. What is the specificity? Specificity is attributed to a defined region of antibody molecule and restricts the antibody to combine only with those substances that contain one particular antigenic structure. That is, each immunoglobulin exhibit a high degree of specificity since each one is able to react with only one particular antigenic structure. That is the specificity of the antibody molecule. Whereas the biological activity is, despite the large number of different specific individual antibodies capable of reacting with many different structural entities, the biological effects of such reactions are rather few in number, like complement fixation, crossing of the placenta, activation of mast cells. Therefore, one part of the antibody molecule must be adaptable to allow the accommodation of large number of epitopes, and the another part of the antibody molecule must be adaptable to allow the antibody molecule to participate in the biological activities common to all or many antibodies. So these are the two things which we should remember, that is the structural features of the antibody molecule. One is the specificity, that is binding of foreign antigens encountered by the host specifically, and biological activity, that is a mediating effector functions to neutralize foreign invaders. That is nothing but the biological activity. And here the structure of the antibody is revealed by the chemical and enzymatic methods. Chemical and enzymatic methods revealed the basic structure of antibody. When the gamma globulin fraction of serum is separated into high and low molecular weight fractions, antibodies of around 1,50,000 Daltons, designated as immunoglobulin G, IgG, are found in the low molecular weight fraction. So whenever you divide these immunoglobulins into two fractions, high molecular weight fraction and the low molecular weight, then thereby IgG molecules found in the low molecular weight fraction. Pioneering work regarding the isolation and crystallization of antibodies started during 1950s and 60s resulted in winning a Nobel Prize in the field of physiology of medicine by two scientists in 1972, namely Rodney R. Porter and the Gerald M. Edelman. Rodney R. Porter belongs to Great Britain. Gerald M. Edelman is from the United States. The analysis of the structure of antibody molecules really began in year 1959 for the first time. What the Rodney Porter did? Basically in 1962, what he did was brief digestion of immunoglobulin G with the proteolytic enzyme papain, and that produces 3 fragments, 2 of which were identical with a third that was quite different. There are 3 fragments has been formed when we digest the antibody with the proteolytic enzyme papain. When we have used papain, the enzyme which digests the IgG molecule, we found 3 fragments, number 1, 2 and 3 fragments. Out of these 3, first 2 are equal in size, first 2 are similar, identical, and the third one is somewhat different. It is not at all similar to the first 2 fragments. The 2 identical fragments, each one of about 45,000 Daltons, they have the antigen binding activity, so that they are called as the FAB fragments. Fragments of antigen binding. Fragments of antigen binding. The other fragment is of about 50 kilodaltons or 50,000 Daltons. They had no antigen binding activity at all because it was found to crystallize during the cold storage. It was called the FC fragment. Fragment that is crystallizable. What the Rodney Porter did is he digested the IgG molecule with the papain, and thereby he found 3 fragments, 2 fragments with the identical size of about 45 kilodaltons or 45,000 Daltons, and they have the ability to bind with the antigen, so that they are called as a FAB, fragments of antigen binding, FAB. And the other fragment, it has no activity related to the antigen binding, and that's to be crystallizable during the cold storage, so that is called as a FC, fragment that is crystallizable, fragment that crystallizable. And this is the FAB region, fragment that bind with the antigen, and this is the FC portion, fragment that is crystallizable. Then coming to the second phenomena, first one is usage of the papain and the digestion of the same IgG molecule with a different proteolytic enzyme which is called as pepsin, that demonstrated again that the antigen binding properties of an antibody can be separated from the rest of the molecule. Pepsin digestion generated a single 1 lakh Daltons fragment composed of 2 FAB like subunits. So here we found previously there were 3 segments, but now only one large segment with 2 FAB regions. With 2 FAB regions, almost at weighs of about 1 lakh Daltons. And the another fragment, the FC fragment, was not recovered from the pepsin treatment because it had been digested into numerous small peptides. This is the result of the pepsin digestion. We have only one fragment, that is with the 2 FAB regions. 2 FAB regions. So there is no FC fragment at all. It may be digested. And see the experiments of the Gerald A. Edelman from the United States. A key observation in deducing the multi-chain structure of IgG was made when the molecule was subjected to reduction with the chemical which is known as mercaptoethanol. IgG molecule is subjected to reduction with the mercaptoethanol and followed by the alkylation. a chemical treatment that irreversibly cleaves disulfide bonds but not the peptide bonds. If the post-treatment sample is chromatographed on a column that separates molecule by size, it becomes clear that the intact 1,50,000 Daltons IgG molecule was in fact composed of 4 subunits. So the mercaptoethanol, it cleaves the disulfide bonds. It cleaves the disulfide bonds. Now, thereby we found that the entire antibody molecule is made up of 4 subunits, 4 chains. Each IgG molecule contains 2 larger polypeptide chains. So the blue color ones, 2 larger polypeptide chains, and they are known as the heavy chains, and 2 smaller chains, they are known as the light chains. The heavy chains of about they have the 50,000 Daltons molecular weight, and whereas the light chains they may be having 22,000 to 25,000 Daltons molecular weight. So the large chain, heavy chain 50 kilodaltons, and the light chain 25 kilodaltons. Otherwise 50,000 Daltons and the 25,000 Daltons. So this is the chromatographical representation of all the heavy chains, light chains. This is the whole immunoglobulin G. This represents the heavy chains and this represents the light chains. So this is about the enzymatic digestion of the antibody molecule with the papain and the pepsin and as well as the mercaptoethanol. These are the results. Then here see there are 4 chains. One is a heavy chain, this side, one heavy chain, this side, another heavy chain, this side, one light chain, this side, one light chain. 4 chains, out of which 2 are heavy chains and 2 are light chains. So this we should remember. This is done by the Gerald M. Edelman. That is due to the reduction and the alkylation of the IgG molecule with the help of the mercaptoethanol. So this leads to the revealing of chemical composition or chemical structure of the antibody. Generally, antibodies are the heterodimers. That is, each antibody consists of 4 polypeptide chains. 2 of them are the heavy chains and 2 of them are the light chains. Each light chain is bound to heavy chain by a disulfide bond and by non-covalent interactions such as salt linkages, hydrogen bonds to form a heterodimer. Similar disulfide bridges and non-covalent interactions link the 2 heavy chain and as well as the light chains to form the 4 chain. That is 2 heavy and 2 light chain antibody structure, so that it is known as a dimer of dimers. So just now we have seen the structure. Here the 2 heavy chains, they bound with the light chains. So this is the heavy chain and this is the light chain. So these are the disulfide bonds. Light chain, heavy chain, disulfide bonds. So it is one dimer, it is another dimer. Both the dimers get connected at the hinge region with again the disulfide bonds, so that it is known as dimer of dimers. So these are the heterodimers. And come to the elucidation of the heavy and light chains in the FAB and FC regions. In order to know this, what the scientists did is, goats are immunized with the FAB or FC fragments of rapid IgG and collected antiserum from the goat. So that is, goats are injected with the antiserum of the rabbit IG, serum of the rabbit that contain immunoglobulins, and thereby the antibodies which are prepared against to the IgG, that is antisera from the goat, get collected. If you observe the antibodies that are formed to the FAB fragment could react with both heavy and light chains, whereas the antibody to FC that reacted only with the heavy chain. That indicates that FAB formed of both heavy chains and light chains, whereas the FC portion made up of only with the heavy chains. So that is also seen here. Here in the FAB region, we see both the heavy chains and the light chains, whereas in the FC region, we have seen only heavy chains. So that is explained by the goats that are immunized with the IgG of the rabbit. Antisera has been collected and tested for the presence of heavy chains and the light chains. So this is the FAB and FC region of the antibody. And coming to the domains of the antibody. So there are interchain disulfide bonds to connect two different chains. Intrachain disulfide bonds that holds the loops of the same chain within the chain. And here light chains have the two domains. One of them has a variable domain and another one is a constant domain, or variable light chain and the constant light chain. Whereas the heavy chains have 4 or 5 domains, that is, one is the variable heavy chain, another are the remaining all are the constant heavy chains. That is, both the light chains and the heavy chains, they have two different kinds of domains. One is a variable domain, another one is a constant domain. So here, if you observe, this is the heavy chain. First one is the heavy chain. Here, this is the variable heavy chain region. So remaining 3 are the constant heavy chain regions. So here, this is the variable light chain and this is the constant light chain. So both the heavy chain and light chain, both of them, they have variable regions and as well as the constant regions. Variable regions and the constant regions. See here, the variable portion is shown in the purple color, whereas the constant region seen in the blue color. So both the light chain and heavy chain, both of them, they have the variable and constant regions. Then antibodies are chemically glycoproteins. Antibodies are chemically glycoproteins. Then what is the use of the glycolization of the antibody? That is, with a few exceptions, the sites of attachment of carbohydrates are restricted to the constant region. We do not completely understand the role played by the glycosylation of antibodies, but it probably increases the solubility of the molecule. Glycosylation of antibody that may leads to the enhancement of the solubility of the molecule. How it came to know? Inappropriate glycosylation of the antibody or its absence affects the rate at which antibodies are cleared from the serum and decreases the efficiency of interaction between antibody and other proteins with which it interacts. So that some of the times antibodies may undergo glycosylation and they are treated as the glycoproteins. So this glycosylation that may leads to the enhancement of the solubility of the antibody. And then light chain sequences revealed constant and variable regions. Amino acid sequence of light chains. So generally Bence-Jones proteins were compared. When the amino sequence of several light chains, that is Bence-Jones proteins. What are the Bence-Jones proteins are? The excess light chains discovered in the urine of multiple myeloma patients from different individuals were compared. The amino terminal half of the chain consisting of 100 to 110 amino acids was found to vary among different light chains. this region was called as a variable region. That is, the first region of light chains or heavy chains is known as the variable region. So there is a vary in the amino acid sequences of the chain, polypeptide chain. Whereas the carboxyl terminal regions, the carboxy terminal halves of the molecule called the constant region. So that is, that had no change in the sequence of the amino acids. So where the variable region represents there is a vary in the amino acid sequence. Constant region, that is, there is no change in the amino acid sequence of the polypeptide chain. And the light chains are of two types, as we know, kappa type light chains and the lambda type. If you observe the kappa type, humans, they contain 60% kappa type of light chains, whereas the remaining 40% belongs to lambda type. Whereas in the mice, 95% of kappa type light chains are present, whereas the remaining 5%, that is of lambda type of light chains. And immunoglobulins possess multiple domains based on the immunoglobulin fold. So as we know, the proteins of different kinds of structures, primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary structures. As we know, if you observe only the linear chain, that is a primary structure, amino acid residues will be seen. And in the secondary structure, this is the primary structure. In the secondary structure, we will see the alpha helix. And in the tertiary structure, so we will see somewhat greater folding. And highly folding has been seen in the quaternary structure of the antibodies. Primary, secondary, this is the primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure and quaternary structures. Primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary structures has been seen in the structure of antibodies. So this is also the same thing. Come to the immunoglobulin regions. How many regions we may find out in the immunoglobulin? There are basically three regions. One is the hinge region, another one is variable region, followed by the constant region. What are the specialties of all these three regions? What are the specialties of all these three regions? If you see the hinge region, they are present in the gamma, alpha and delta heavy chains between the CH1 and CH2 portions of the constant region. And specialty of the hinge region is, this region is rich in the proline and cysteine residues. What is the role of the proline? Polypeptide conformation and make it vulnerable to cleavage. The large number of proline residues in the hinge region gives it an extended polypeptide conformation, making it partially vulnerable to cleavage by different kinds of proteolytic enzymes. And also, proline residues prevent the folding in a globular structure. That also prevent the folding in a globular structure. And cysteine residues form interchain disulfide bonds that hold the two heavy chains together. The number of interchain disulfide bonds in the hinge region varies considerably among different classes of antibodies and between species. They also prevent folding and form the interchain disulfide bonds. So the hinge region rich in the proline and cysteine, and both of them, they play a major role in different things. Then mu and epsilon chains, that is IgM and IgE kind of antibodies, they lack hinge region, but they have an additional CH2 domain. There is a extra domain instead of the hinge region, because in the IgM and IgE, the hinge region is absent. And what is the function of the hinge region. The hinge region provides flexibility. Two FAB arms can assume various angles to each other when antigen is bound. So this leads to the flexibility. And the FAB portions, FAB arms, they assume various angles while they are going to attach with a antigen. The same flexibility can be visualized through electron micrographs of the antigen and antibody complexes. So while here we will observe the hinge region, and thereby there is a flexibility shown by the antibody. Flexibility shown by the antibody. So this is the hinge region. Then coming to the another region, variable region. The first 110 amino acids of the amino terminal region of light or the heavy chain varies greatly among antibodies of different antigen specificity. And these segments of highly variable sequence are called variable regions. So the variable region in the light chain is shown as the VL, and the variable region in the heavy chain is known as the VH. Now, the Elvin Cabot and Wu compared the amino acid sequence of many different VL and VH regions. They found that the greatest amount of variability occurred in the 3 regions of light and heavy chains. These regions are called as the hypervariable regions. These are called as the hypervariable regions, and the sites that present in between the hypervariable regions are known as the framework regions. So the regions that show the greatest variation, they are known as the hypervariable regions. The less variable stretches which occur between these hypervariable regions are called as the framework regions. And there is another term which is known as the CDR, complementary determining regions. The hypervariable regions participate in the binding with an antigen and form the region complementary in structure to the antigen epitope. Therefore, they are termed as the complementary determining regions or CDR of the light and heavy chains. And the hypervariable regions are actually brought together in the folded form of the intact antibody molecule, and together they constitute the combining site which is complementary to the epitope. The variability in these CDRs provide the diversity of the shape of the combining site that is required for the function of antibodies of different specificities. And another more thing which is known as the redundancy. What is the redundancy? Is ability of paratope, the part which binds with the antigen, the part of the antibody that binds with the antigen is a paratope, to combine with 2 or more apparently diverse epitopes. Particular antibody combining site may have the ability to combine with 2 or more apparently diverse epitopes. This property of antibody is known as the redundancy. Although they have the high specificity, some of the times they are also able to show the redundancy. And the FAB region is commonly called as the region of recognition. The FAB region of immunoglobulin is complementary to the particular antigen. Hence, this region is known as region of recognition. Here we will see this is the FAB region which is shown in the circle. So this is the paratope of the antibody which binds with the epitope of the antigen. So here we will see the red color and the yellow marks where we have shown like this. For example, these are the hypervariable regions. So the upside one are the with less variability, they are called as the framework regions. And these are the sites which are responsible for the attachment of the part of the antibody with the part of the antigen, so that they are known as the CDR, complementarity determining regions. Complementarity determining regions. And the FAB portion is responsible for the identification of an antigen, so that they are known as a region of recognition. Region of recognition. And this is all about the variable region. Coming to the, see here we will see, this is a variable heavy chain VH, variable light chain, constant heavy chain 2, constant heavy chain 3, and this is the constant light chain. So here we will see variable region of constant and variable region of heavy chains and light chains. And see the constant region. The amino acid sequences does not change in the constant region significantly among antibodies of the same class. In the constant region, the amino acid sequences does not change significantly among the antibodies of the same class. The constant region of light chains is known as the CL, constant light chain, and the constant heavy chains CH1, CH2, CH3 and CH4. Here the CH1 and the CL that facilitate the antigen binding and increase the maximum rotation of the FAB arms. If you observe the heavy chains of the IgG, heavy chains of the IgG, IgA, IgD, they contain 3 constant region domains and a hinge region, whereas the IgE and IgM, they have 4 constant regions and there is no hinge region, that will be shown in the table. Here if you observe the IgG, IgA and IgE, see IgG, IgA and IgD, here CH1, CH1, okay, no problem. IgM and IgE, CH1, CH1. Here IgG, IgA and IgD, they have a hinge region, but here there is no hinge region, there is extra constant domains in the form of CH2. Here CH2, CH2, CH3, 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 CH4, CH4. That indicates that here there are 3 constant region plus 1 hinge region, whereas here there is no hinge region and 4 constant regions are there. That is the difference in between IgG, IgA, IgD and IgM and IgE in the case of constant region. And if you observe the X-ray crystallography analysis, the 2 CH domains of IgG, IgA and IgD and 2 CH3 domains of IgM, IgE are separated by oligosaccharide side chains that prevent the contact between oppressed domains. As a result, these globular domains are much more accessible than the others to aqueous environment, so that they are easily soluble. This accessibility contributes to the biological activity of the domains. And the entire immunoglobulins which are present, which we know, they are classified into 2 groups: secreted immunoglobulins and the membrane bound immunoglobulins. Some of them, they are secreted by the B lymphocytes, other plasma cells, and some of them, they are attached to the surface of the B lymphocytes. What are the basic differences in between SIG, secreted IG, and MIG, membrane bound IG? In the secreted IG, the carboxyl terminal domain differ in structure and function, whereas here the carboxyl terminal domain contains 3 regions. And here in the secreted IG, they have a hydrophilic amino acid sequence of various lengths at carboxyl terminal end. And if you observe the specialties of the membrane bound IG, an extracellular hydrophilic spacer sequence that may vary, a hydrophobic transmembrane sequence that is constant without any change, and they have cytoplasmic taili. There is a variation in the cytoplasmic tail. In the hydrophilic spacer, they have the variation, and in the cytoplasmic tail, they have the variation. So these are the difference in between secreted Ig and as well as the membrane bound Ig. And B cells, they express different classes of membrane bound Ig at different developmental stages of the B cell. If you observe the immature B cell or pre-B cell, they have the membrane bound Ig, IgM, MIG, otherwise IgM, mu type of heavy chains that are present in the antibody. Mature B cells, they have membrane bound IgM or membrane bound IgD. Memory B cells, they have membrane bound IgG or membrane bound IgA or membrane bound IgE. And the specialty is all these antibodies bind to the same epitope. All these antibodies, they bind to the same epitope. That is, immature B cells, they have the IgM kind of membrane bound IGs. Mature B cells, they have two kinds, IgM and IgD. Whereas the memory B cells, the remaining types, IgG, IgA and IgE type of membrane bound antibodies are present over the surface of the memory B cells. So all these antibodies bind to the same kind of epitope. That is the specialty of the. Then Susumu Tonigawa. Susumu Tonigawa is a scientist who shown the genetic basis of antibody diversity, and he was awarded Nobel Prize in the year 1987. In the year 1987, Susumu Tonigawa was a scientist who explained the genetic basis of antibody diversity. Genetic basis of antibody diversity. For this, he was awarded Nobel Prize in the year 1987. So this is the DNA, and based upon the structure of the antigen, the surface antibody of the general B cell that receives the information, and there will be a rearrangement in the natural DNA, and thereby after the changing of the modification of the rearrangement of the DNA that undergoes the transcription that forms the mRNA. So this fragment for the light chain and this fragment for the heavy chain, and thereby there will be a consequent preparation of the FAB regions and as well as the FC regions, and followed by the formation of the antibody takes place. That is, based upon the structure of the antigen, the different kinds of antibodies have been prepared. So this is explained by the Susumu Tonigawa. So for this he was awarded Nobel Prize. So this is the genetic basis of antibody diversity. And see the functions of antibodies. What are the functions mediated by the antibody? First one is the opsonization. Opsonization is a process where the antibody mediates the attachment of the opsonin molecules, and thereby the antibodies can communicate with the antigen, and thereby they can easily kill them. And activation of the complement, followed by antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity, and final one is the transcytosis. These are the major functions mediated by the antibodies. Let us see in the form of a chart. Here we will see the opsonization process. Here there is a process of phagocytosis, there is a opsonization, and activation of the complement, followed by antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity, ADCC. Then here neutralization of the microbes and toxins, lysis of microbes, phagocytosis of the microbes opsonized with the complement fragments, and finally inflammation also. While we discussing the antibody, so we have studied the structure of the antibody and various evidences, followed by the functions of the antibody molecule. Thank you one and all.